Hello, nurses and friends of nurses. Yakko Warner here, and you're listening to a podcast on the Geekcast Radio Network. Lucky you.
Stay on the Cinema Geeks.
We discuss the new leader at the box office for 2016.
We react to the reveal of the new highest-paid actor in Hollywood.
And in our main attraction, we present to you our mid-year movie awards.
All that and more coming up on this week's episode with the Cinema Geeks.
That's right, it's another episode of the Cinema Geeks. I am one of your geeks, Optimus Solo. Joining me today for this special mid-year celebration episode is, ladies first, Hard Candy Mandy.
Yo, what up?
Not a lot. And, of course, Movie Revolt Dan. How's it going, sir?
It is going well. How about yourself?
It's not too bad. Not too bad. We've been seeing a lot of movies lately to try to cram everything in for this record. So, and also joining us is, of course, Matt Fridley-Sent. How's it going, sir?
I want to be the best. Like no one ever was.
If anybody wants to play like a game while you listen to our podcast, I think the game that you want to play is some type of drinking game with the number of times that Matt mentions either Batman or Superman during this episode.
Or Pokemon.
Yeah.
So we're going to hit some news stories real quick, and then we will come back with our celebration of the mid-year point and give you all kinds of fun awards and lists and winners that we feel are worthy so far on a half year's worth of films. So starting off with some news, I wanted to put this one out there because I thought Amanda would get a little bit giddy about this one. Although I'm going to dash your hopes as soon as you get your hopes up. So just be ready for that. But apparently Warner Brothers has filed for the trademark for Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
The play that's happening right now?
The current play, which has got a lot of people speculating that they've been doing something in hopes that they would eventually be making a film about that. However, J.K. Rowling has said that that is not the case. It's just standard procedure. But that you will get 3 films out of the Fantastic Beasts, that it will be a trilogy, if you didn't know that already, but there would be no film for the play Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Are you upset or okay with that?
I can understand it because it's not written by J.K. Rowling, so I can understand with just wanting the Harry Potter property to be, the movie properties just be based on her books and her ideas. Mm-hmm. I get it. Is it a little sad? Yeah. Do I want to see the play? Yeah.
Do you like the idea that they're making 3 films out of Fantastic Beasts?
I like the idea, yeah. I hope that the execution is as amazing as I think it's going to be. And it's kind of a new world, if you will, kind of opened up now. So I think it'd be cool to delve in to the adult side of things now, away from, just being at school for the majority of time and not be on a death mission. I think that it's going to be cool to see, wizardry going on in America and a lot of different places, so I'm down for it.
Now, I know most of you guys have read the actual Harry Potter books. Amanda, have you read Fantastic Beasts?
Yes. And
Matt or Dan, have either of you guys read that?
No, I have not.
It's not a story, it's just like a little mini encyclopedia.
Gotcha. Okay, so any excitement from you guys that they're making 3 films out of this, Dan, or do you think that's just kind of par for the course for what's happening today in Hollywood?
I'm a little concerned just because the thing that kind of pops in my head is like The Hobbit and like how they took something like a small book and they expanded into 3 films and how that did not work. I guess this is somewhat different because it's not really a story. They're really just it's something that's completely original. But that's my only concern. I mean, I do like this world. I do like the idea that it's a different time period. It doesn't seem like it's one that's going to be focusing a lot on trying to recapture the same magic, if you would, as the Harry Potter part in the pun. But I do have some concern, just because, when you start with a trilogy, sometimes bad things happen.
Yeah. Now, Matt, I know you kind of were a big fan of the books and you kind of stopped watching the films early on. Is this a point where you're going to continue kind of the boycott of the Harry Potter film series, or is this a chance for you to kind of give it another shot?
I think if someone were to say, hey, let's go see that, I'd see it, but I don't have any interest. Like, it's not going to draw me on its own merits.
All right, so we'll have to wait and see as we get the first installment of that trilogy later this year. Another film that's going to be coming a little bit later in the year than we expected, The Founder, which we talked about a little bit with our most anticipated films, etc., with Michael Keaton, the McDonald's story, which I'm sure a lot of people have seen trailers for, originally slated to come out in August, Dan. Now it is pushed back to a limited release on December, I believe, 18th, and a wide release on January 20th, which will put it right in the smack dab middle of the award season. Is this a good move for those people that were excited about The Founder, or is this frustrating for all those people that struggle with is it a 2016 or 2017 release?
Well, that's always something to consider. I think it's going to be a struggle for sure. I mean, IMDb is going to list it as a 2015 release, so if that's all you go off of. I mean, it's things that you have to wait to see it, because I wanted to see it, now I have to wait a few more months. My inclination, that might be good because they're releasing it that way. But then I think of something like In the Heart of the Sea, which was also pushed back, and people thought, oh, it must be a good sign that they're putting it in award season, and that did not turn out to be the case. So I'm not saying The Founder will be that bad, but I don't necessarily think a movement of that is always an indication that it's going to be an award contender. Maybe it will be. I hope it will be, because I do like the cast there, and it looks like it could be good, but it's just, I think, frustrating because it's like, oh, I'm going to see that next month. No, I'm not actually going to have to watch.
Not anymore. Yeah, definitely a lot of people are on the internet are getting excited that it might mean good things for The Founder and might mean another award season for Mr. Keaton. But we'll have to wait and see a little bit longer than we might have planned. One film that you don't have to wait and see because it's out in force currently at the box office is our new 2016 box office reigning champion. And do you all know which film that is, Amanda?
Is it Dory?
It is Finding Dory. It's now the #1 film from 2016. So anybody that had that in your box office predictions or in your fall or summer film prediction that we did a while back, you guys are sitting pretty. Finding Dory currently $431 million domestic, which is $25 million ahead of Captain America: Civil War. Dan, are you surprised at the success of Finding Dory, or is it just the animated genre strikes again?
No, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, if Cars 2 can make money and it's Pixar and Finding, it's not surprised in the least. It's kind of crazy though that the top 5 films are either Marvel, Disney, or both. So 4 out of 5. I mean, the only one that's not is another movie that might be brought up. If you're drinking, Batman vs Superman, take your shot. There you go. But yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Disney reigning supreme, and they're not done by a long shot yet for this year. Matt, there's currently 6 films that have grossed over $300 million already at the halfway point. We have, again, Batman vs. Superman at $330, Zootopia, The Jungle Book, Deadpool, Captain America, and Finding Dory now all have eclipsed the $300 million mark. Are you surprised that many films are having the success that they have so far halfway through the year?
I'm surprised Batman vs. Superman's doing well. Or did well enough to be in the top 6, even though, it didn't do all that well and didn't make back its advertising budget and all that other stuff. But, they're all but one of the top 5 are Disney because, Disney just does powerhouses now, except for The Good Dinosaur. But we don't talk about The Good Dinosaur.
And another film that might be joining the group, we'll see if it's able to sustain its first week presence, but The Secret Life of Pets is already at $142 million, and right ahead of that, it won't gain anything more, but we have Kung Fu Panda 3 even had 143, so a good year for animated movies. Also, Angry Birds has eclipsed the 100 million mark too, so a lot of success with animated films so far this year. So we'll have to see how long Finding Dory can hold on to that top spot. There will be some competition coming up real shortly, as the estimates coming in early for the Suicide Squad are tremendous. So we'll have to see if those estimates actually come out to be true. And then, of course, there is one big star yet to be seen in December with Star Wars: A Rogue Story. So a lot of money being made. It might do okay. A lot of money to be made at the box office this year for sure. It's going to give 2015 a run for its money as far as the number of huge films that it's putting out. Speaking about money, I don't know if any of you guys saw this article or not, or saw different tweets or whatever on social media, but the question, I guess, would be, we have a new highest paid actor in Hollywood that has dethroned the former long-time running gentleman. Does anybody have an idea of who in Hollywood right now is the highest paid actor? This includes movies, TVs, and everything.
Jennifer Lawrence?
It is not Jennifer Lawrence.
Is it a dude or a chick?
It is a dude. Any guess, Amanda, Matt, Dan, anybody else?
Jai Courtney. No?
I'm going to say Freddie Savage because he listens. I'm looking out at you, Savage.
It is The Rock.
It is The Rock. The Rock is the highest paid actor in Hollywood. For the last couple years, it has been Robert Downey Jr., obviously because of all the Marvel money, but currently Dwayne The Rock Johnson is the highest paid person in movies and TV.
I'm not mad at him because the boy works for his money.
He does work for his money, and he made $64.5 million, I guess, in the last year or in 2016 or whatever metric they're using to gauge that. And he's not done by a long shot because he's got a whole bunch of stuff coming out in the next year or so. We have him obviously in Fast and Furious 8 when that hits, I believe, next year. He's going to be the headlining star in the R-rated Baywatch movie next year. He'll be involved in the Jumanji reboot. And then obviously we've had the long-time rumors of or announcements of him being in the Doc Savage movie, Black Adam and Shazam, and then a sequel of sorts to San Andreas based on that Rampage video game movie or whatever they're calling that. So, I mean, The Rock is doing well for himself, not to mention his TV work with Ballers, etc. So, are you surprised that The Rock is the one that is overtaking Robert Downey Jr., Matt, Amanda, or Dan?
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, he's in a ton of stuff with some big players, and now he's even in some premium channel TV stuff going on. So I can see it. I don't think this is his first TV show, is it?
Well, would count WWE, I guess.
Yeah.
He's been on the TV a few times.
Yeah.
But and I also forgot, of course, he's still got another big film coming out this year with Moana from Disney. So I'm sure...
You said that white as hell.
Moana.
We don't live in the Midwest.
So, but that'll be a big one. I forgot about that, too, when we were talking about the box office. Another Disney film that'll probably make the top 15 or top 10 for the year. So, man, The Rock is doing things. But we'll have to see if he can hold on to it for 2 years in a row or if somebody else will challenge that title for him. He's all over Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook posting images of himself and commenting on this new feed of his. So apparently, according to a couple articles, he has like the best Instagram in the world to follow. So those of you that are Instagrammers, I guess you should be following The Rock.
Why are you looking at me?
I don't know, because I don't know what
I follow James Franco.
Well, you need to add The Rock, apparently.
I've seen The Rock on Instagram play like a ukulele and sing a song. It was pretty impressive.
Nice.
But I think the surprising news is that there's a new Doc Savage movie coming out. Yeah. Have you guys seen the original?
Oh, man. If I did, I don't remember it.
Oh, we need to rectify that.
We'll put it on the list.
My question is it really a ukulele or just a regular sized guitar that is
Dang. He's beefy.
That's funny. All right. One film that might have trouble making the international money, but regardless of how it does domestically, there's a bunch of articles, a bunch of rumors that Ghostbusters, which is set to release this weekend, is apparently possibly being banned in China.
What? Because
they have some censorship rules about anything that is promoting any type of satanic or cult-related type imagery or storylines.
Are you serious?
But
I don't...
That's weird because then, like, Warcraft was gigantically huge, and it's called Warcraft.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know if it's an actual thing, but I've seen it on, like, 5 or 6 different news outlets that have shown this. So I don't... But maybe it's going to be shown in China, and maybe it's just a bunch of...
They just don't like fucking women over there, so they're trying to ban it.
So,
well, they do have population control. I mean, is that...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No girl babies. No girl babies. No girl Ghostbusters movies.
So I mean that's a huge market if it's not shown in China. So that would be kind of I would think devastating to international money at least. But we'll see. It's getting early positive reviews from what I've seen. So maybe it'll make a decent amount at least here in America. A couple of items that I wanted to bring up that I didn't know were happening or I didn't know existed. I want to get your guys' reaction. But apparently, we've had an influx of biblical films recently. Some higher budgeted than others, and some better received than others, but apparently there's a new biblical film coming out starring or centering around the character of Mary Magdalene, And the news article that was hit this week is revealing some of the cast for that. Apparently, Chewie Ejiofor is going to be playing Peter, the disciple. And then we have Rooney Mara, I'm assuming, will be playing Mary Magdalene. And anybody want to take a guess on who's playing Jesus? Or Joseph or somebody, I don't know, somebody else big. They haven't named who, but I'm guessing it's Jesus.
Ewan McGregor?
Joaquin Phoenix.
Really?
Good Lord.
He's listed in the casting. I don't know if that's for that role or not.
When did Jesus get a hair lip?
So I guess if you're a fan of those films, look out for that. That's a star-studded cast already put together for that one. But the ones that I really want to get your guys' reaction for, a couple things solidified here. First off, Dan, I know you're a big fan of the Russo brothers and their work in Captain America the Winter Soldier, as well as obviously this year's Captain America Civil War. Are you aware that they are now also planning to adapt the Warriors film into a TV series?
I was not. That's intriguing.
Yeah, so the gang warfare thriller The Warriors, set to have something to do with the Russo brothers. Whether they're actually able to do any directing is going to be kind of tough with all the other projects they got going on, but apparently it's going to be a joint venture between Paramount TV and Hulu, so they won't have to deal with some of the the broadcast rules and standards as far as that goes. But are any of you guys a fan of the Warriors film, and do you think that it would make for good fare for TV?
I think it's definitely something that they could draw out into a season of episodes, just because there's a ton of different gangs. They could do a ton of different stuff with, what angles they're coming from. They could have it from a viewpoint of a different gang every episode if they wanted, and I think that it's got some cool characters and things that they could do with costuming and sets and stuff and location. I think it'd be pretty good.
So you're down?
Yeah.
Dan or Matt, any reaction to the Warriors, or thinking that that's good or bad?
I just hope they come out and play yay.
Nice.
I mean, I would be. I think that's potential, because there's like a kind of a cool universe there that they build within that world, that there's something to take. It's such a movie that is so 70s though. So if they're doing it, I hope they don't try to modernize it and make it like current day, that it is during that time. It would make it more expensive of a show though, but I don't know. I don't know if I could see it working as well. Maybe there's something they could do if they try to set it in present day, but it's fun. I remember there being like a Warriors video game back in the day, which was fun too. So I don't know.
Everything gets remade, right? So we'll have to wait and see how that works. But speaking of other TV series, another property that may be coming the route of the small screen. We've seen a whole bunch of things done by Marvel and DC, but what we haven't seen that may be coming soon is a TV spin-off series based on the X-Men. So apparently Fox is going to be trying its hand out at bringing the X-Men to the TV screen, and it sounds like something similar to the plotline so far, as far as the premise of the show. Sounds something similar to Midnight Special. The article states that it would follow two ordinary parents who discover their child has mutant abilities, and with a hostile government on their trail, they'll need help from an underground mutant coalition and will have to fight to survive.
Out of all the things that they could have done with it, that's how they're focusing?
I guess that's what the article is saying. Dan, I know you're a big X-Men fan. Do you like the idea of an X-Men TV series along the same lines of some of the other superhero fare that's made its way to the TV?
I worry because it's like it'd be so relying on special effects, and I know like we have the Flash and Supergirl, but I think those kind of work because they exist in a like a little bit. They're lighter than you would expect like an X-Men show to be, I guess, depending on how they do it. So I don't know. I mean, it could work. I think it's time for the movies to take a break. So maybe television is a better route, but I'm hesitant. I mean, I know they have the Legion show that's also a possibility, and they talked about the Hellfire Club show that was also coming out. So I don't know. I think of all of them, like an actual X1, this one I'd probably be the most interested in. But like I said, I would hopefully they have like a legit budget behind it to make it actually work.
And speaking of some of the people behind it, so far the names that are attached to this venture are Bryan Singer, of course, that we know from his previous work with the X-Men franchise, the Burn Notice creator, Matt Nix, and then a team of producers from Fox and Marvel comic book teams, including Bryan Singer, Simon Kinberg, Jeff Loeb, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, and Lauren Schuler Donner.
Jeff Loeb is right.
Yeah, so those are some of the names being attached to it. Matt, what do you think about an X-Men TV series?
Well, I mean, I loved the cartoon series in the 90s. Like, I grew up on that, so, like, I mean, I get that there's a very big difference between a more adult-oriented TV show and a child-oriented cartoon, but, like, I don't know, I liked Heroes for the seasons. It was good. Like, you could do a superhero show on TV that, and make it even just, like, low action or whatever you need, because, like, the underground movement sort of thing could have been pretty low. So, like, I'm hopeful, but I doubt I'll watch it just because I don't watch television.
Last two news items before we take a quick break. Now, we've seen the trend where it's gone from 80s remakes to 90s remakes, so I don't know, Amanda, you're a big fan of the 90s. I don't know if you are familiar with this one or not, but the latest 90s property that is looking to be remade is none other than the 1990s thriller Flatliners. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that or not. Kiefer Sutherland, who was originally on the 90s thriller Flatliners, is said to be the only person that may make a reappearance.
Is this an EMT movie? Or an ER movie?
I don't know if I would call it that. I mean, it is...
Like a movie about doctors or emergency
rooms? Yeah, it's
like
medical. There's medical people involved, etc. I mean, I haven't seen the Flatliners film in so long that I don't know, but the current cast is including Ellen Page and Diego Luna. The 90 film had Kiefer Sutherland, Julia Roberts, Kevin Bacon, and William Baldwin in it. So, anybody on the panel seen or remember the 1990 film Flatliner?
No.
No, so that... I apologize. Maybe I need to throw that on my list of shame, but yeah,
I don't think it's
horror is something I am a very noob in.
So we'll have to wait and see what the listeners and what the fans think about that, because I'm not as familiar with that film either. So I'm not really sure if that's good or the other. It sounds something like Point Break. Like, I don't know what the point of that is. So apparently there's a crowd pleading for more Flatliners, I guess. But one thing that is somewhat related, I guess, to our conversations about our video game series films, and we've talked about the rumors, and now it is confirmed, and we even have a date. Alicia Vikander's Tomb Raider will be released March 16th, 2018. Amanda, excited for Alicia Vikander and a new Tomb Raider film in 2018?
I don't know yet. I'm interested in the series being made a little bit darker, a little less cheesy than what Angelina did. Maybe serious it up a little bit, make it more a little like, you know, a Jason Bourne style kind of, you know, action and stuff in there. I think it might be pretty cool.
It's said to be an origin story, so it's going to depict a young and untested Lara Croft embarking on her first adventure.
And I'm not so sure about that, though. I think it's cool to have her origin story now. We've always just jumped into a situation where she's already an adult and established, so it might be pretty cool to see it from that angle.
Dan, it seems to be without fail that every time a video game film comes out, the article has to put this line in there. The last line of the article, could it be the film to break the video game adaptation curse?
Could it be? I mean, she's a good start for sure, because I've pretty much liked her everything she's been in. I mean, my question would be, who's directing it? Like, what's the
according to the article, the tremendously named, quote, Roar Uthog is in the director's seat.
Oh,
that's
Ward.
Uthaug.
Yeah, we go way back. Him and Ward. Yeah, so that's, I mean, he doesn't really tell me anything. So I still have yet to watch the old Lara Croft films. So we'll talk about those shortly. But I don't know. I guess it has as much potential as any of them. I guess. I mean, it does seem like one that shouldn't make sense and should be an easier, just like it's Indiana Jones but with a female. I guess.
Right.
So it should. I guess. Yeah.
Matt, any interest in a new Tomb Raider?
Well, I mean, like, so it makes sense that they're doing an origin story because after, being around in video games for nearly 20 years, like, that's what the most recent series has been about, is her origins. So, like, that makes sense to coincide with that. I don't know, man. I like the Indiana Jones movies, and so the idea of doing something like Indiana Jones but with a lady at the helm sounds cool, especially when it's not just we're remaking Indiana Jones and making her a lady. So, like, I'm down.
All right. So fans, let us know if you're interested in Alicia Vikander and a new Tomb Raider. We got a couple years to talk about it now. So that's going to do it for the news for this week. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's the moment you've all been waiting for, the Mid-Year Awards, where we get crazy with all kinds of lists and prizes that we hand out to those that are worthy through the first half of 2016. So we'll be right back after the break.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's Optimus Solo and
Hard Candy Mandy.
And we just wanted to let you guys know about another podcast out there that we both think you would all enjoy.
It's one of both of our favorite shows to listen to, and it's none other than the True Bromance Podcast.
True Bromance is a movie podcast hosted by longtime friends Hyro and Barry, and if you like to smile, laugh, and just be genuinely entertained while listening to movie talk, then this is definitely the right show for you.
Each week, the guys break down a recently released movie, and not only do they tie in the movie that week to the beers that they are drinking during the show,
but they also tie it into a real fun top and bottom 5 list associated with that movie.
It's a blast hearing both sides of these lists, and it definitely makes them unique amongst all other movie review podcasts.
So we definitely want to recommend all of you guys to go check out their show. Just search out the True Bromance Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and all other podcast platforms. And if you listen via iTunes, do us a favor and leave them a 5-star review. And don't forget to let them know that the Cinema Geeks sent you.
On the Simplistic Reviews podcast, we talk movies. We talk TV. We talk.
Hello, Julie, what the heck are you doing?
Trying to make our spots sound more exciting by adding explosions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could have got the point across with sound effects, not the real thing. Car.
Download the show on iTunes or at simplisticreviews.blogspot.com.
I'm sure your insurance company will cover that.
No, they won't.
No, they probably won't.
All right, thanks for sticking with us. As I said before the break, the rest of the show will be dedicated to looking back at the first half of 2016 and reflecting on the films that we've seen so far. Amanda, before we get into any actual awards and prizes, and just so people know the way we're going to be doing this, we're just kind of be alternating back and forth, and it's been up to each host to come up with their own categories, their own awards or prizes they're going to give out. It might be just a single film or a single person or a single thing, or it might be a top 2, 3, 5 list or whatever they have prepared. But before we get into that, Amanda, how has the year been so far for you for 2016? Looking back at the first half, has it been good, bad, or ugly?
Maybe a little in between. I think that there's been a couple things I've been pleasantly surprised with, but also a few super big letdowns. So I'm waiting still yet this year to be absolutely wowed by a film. I think there's been a couple where I'm like, yeah, I really like that, but some of them I kind of had to chew on to decide how I felt about it. So I'm waiting for that one epic movie to come out and just rock my socks.
All right. Dan, what about you? How do you view 2016 so far, maybe in comparison to the last couple of years?
I feel it's been okay. It's been, I'm pretty happy, if I, looking at the way I judge the half year point of the year is that, looking at whatever my top 10 is at the moment, how do I feel about it? And I feel pretty good about my top 10 so far this year. I would say there's been a lot of disappointments this year, for sure. There's been a lot of bad films. There's probably more bad than good, but kind of come to expect that with this half. It's not the best half I've seen. I think last year is kind of hard for me to judge because I didn't catch up with a lot, but I think 2014 was really good for me. This is okay. I do have a couple films I'm really happy about, my top 4 of the year. I could see easily being in my top 10, maybe even top 6 or so. So I don't know. That doesn't always happen, and I feel like there's been a good mixture of films when it comes to my top 10, genre-wise, style, big films, small films. But I think the thing that there's been just really large disappointments that have kind of overshadowed, as we'll probably talk about. So I would give it C+, B-, which is,
Yeah, I think I'm in a similar state of mind here because, like you said, if I look at my top 10, top 15, heck, even if you look at my top 20, it's all films I enjoyed. It's all films that I liked, so I'm not, ashamed of that list so far or anything, and I think it's a legit list, but it's kind of a combination. It's what Amanda said, where there just hasn't been a bunch of films yet that have just, really, kind of set me back or really connected with me. There's been some minor connections and whatnot, but nothing that's just floored me. And at the same time, what you were saying, Dan, I think that's somewhat overshadowed by the huge number of disappointments or flops or just films that you were hoping to be good that just didn't turn out to be good. So that's where I'm at too. Probably a low B, high C somewhere so far for the halfway point. Matt, I know you haven't seen a ton of films yet in 2016, but out of the films you've seen, have you been happy with your movie experiences so far this year, or has the curse of one film just ruined it for you?
Well, when that one film is a quarter of the movies you've seen.
Maybe that's why you can't get the fuck over it. You need to see more stuff so you can move on with your life.
I just need to watch movies to push it out of my head so I'll never remember it again.
You just need to move on with your life.
Like, the most enjoyable movie experience I've had this year was the 5th time I saw Force Awakens. That's how I feel about 2016.
Man, we gotta rent some films for you and put Batman and Superman far out of your memory. But all right, let's get right into it. We'll go ladies first. Amanda, what's the first mid-year award or list or whatever that you want to give out?
Let's get down to business with my biggest letdown, since we're on that roll.
All right, what is the biggest letdown of 2016 for you?
I'm gonna cut my list down to, what do you want me to do? Like 3, 5?
3 works.
3. Okay, number 3 is biggest letdown so far, Midnight Special. I thought I was going to get a lot more out of that than I did. I was super disappointed, and I got little glimpses of cool shit that could have gone on that didn't, and...
Which I don't think, well, maybe for you it did, but for me it didn't necessarily mean it was a bad film, but the expectations I had were much higher than I think I reached, at least from my experience. Did you just dislike the film overall, or was it just that you were expecting it to be great?
I was expecting more from it, and I don't think that I was able to fully enjoy it, because I'm like, well, this is alright, cool, kind of bored. But number 2, Alice Through the Looking Glass. That one was super, super sad. It definitely did not live up to the first one, did not live up to the hype that I put around it, didn't live up to the hype of the marketing that I saw. I think that it had a lot of potential as well to do some cool stuff, and it just super fell short.
So something was more disappointing than Alice Through the Looking Glass and Midnight Special. What is it?
Number 1, biggest letdown so far is The Huntsman, The Winter's War.
You expected more out of Huntsman than Alice Through the Looking Glass?
I wanted it to be more. I was so excited, and I thought that going back into the world that they opened up with the first installment, I was ready for some more of that, and it wasn't there. How many times can you bring people that we thought were dead back to life? It was awful.
It was all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so 3 disappointing films for Amanda. Dan, where would you like to start?
Well, I mean, if we're on the disappointing list, let's keep that train going. I only have 2 really films that I was disappointed in. Number 2, I guess, on that list would be X-Men Apocalypse. Would fall on the list of a movie I thought was okay, but overall disappointing. It had a lot of problems. I felt Apocalypse as a character was just lacking in being like the powerful force it needed to work. It just felt messy and sloppy in a lot of ways, special effects even, which was surprising to see. I had a feeling it was going to be like one movie too many, and it kind of turned out to be that way, but I did really love Days of Future Past. I love First Class, and I kind of just left that thinking I'm ready for this X-Men franchise just to take a break from films and maybe focus on other things. And continue the Midnight Train, or continue that as well. Midnight Special was probably my most disappointing film of the year so far. I love Jeff Nichols, I love Mud, I love Take Shelter, but it just did not work for me. I felt at such a distance from the characters the entire time. I felt like a movie that was so relying on what it was saying thematically, it forgot that it also needed to give me something a little bit more narrative-wise. The characters just felt like shells of people. I got what it was going for, but it just felt like not unearned, but was underwhelmed by the ending. What was supposed to be like this aha great moment to me was just rather dull, and I was disappointed. Again, I wouldn't call it a bad movie. There's a lot of things that it does well, but overall it just to me was not up to par and not what it could have been. So that's my most disappointing movie of the year.
I agree with both of you on Midnight Special. I mean, it is in my top half of films so far that I've seen this year, but I was still ultimately disappointed with it, and I just did not feel any emotional connection to anything they did in that whole film, which I was really disappointed in, because usually he can connect emotionally much better with me. So, yeah, I agree that was a disappointing film. Matt, do you want to stay on the negative train and give something negative out?
So, since I had so few movies I couldn't do lists, that I couldn't really think of awards to do, so I just had to think of one positive and one negative unique thing for each of the 4 movies. So I'll go with my most negative movie.
Okay.
Which everyone could guess, Batman vs. Superman. And the negative comment I have to say about this is that it's about the worst movie I've ever seen in theaters ever. But the positive thing is, it gives me endless content to talk about. Like, every time I think about it, I've got something new to say. Like, I've got a new theory on what went wrong. Like, I could talk about this movie forever.
So, Matt, my question to you about Batman vs. Superman, are you going
Don't get him going more.
I have one question. Are you going to watch the, whatever they're calling it, the extended director's 7-hour movie cut of that film?
That's a thing?
Yeah.
There's a rated R cut.
That's supposed to, supposedly, according to some people, fix some of the mistakes.
If it's significantly longer, like, if it's more than, say, 3 hours, and I can get it for cheap or free, I would be more than willing to, over the course of 2 nights or something, watch it. But if it's only 20 or 30 minutes longer, it's not going to fix the problems with that movie.
Dan, do you know how long it is?
I think it's like 15 minutes or 20 minutes longer at least, if not longer. So I could be wrong, but
probably just more piss jokes then.
More Jesse Eisenberg eating jelly beans. Yeah.
Oh man! All right, I will go next, and I'll try to, I guess, stay on the negative side for this round, and I'll just go ahead and rattle off my worst films of the year so far. So the winners so far for my worst film experiences of 2016, I'll give you 5 because I'm not really going to talk about them. I'm just going to name them so you can avoid them at all costs. And that is Gods of Egypt, Misconduct, Tale of Tales, The Fifth Wave, and the worst film of the year so far for me, Exposed, with Keanu Reeves.
Some of those I never even heard of, so.
Good. Keep it that way. If you do come across them and you see an interesting actor or something like that involved, stay away, because those films are god-awful.
Exposed one was the one that was trying to be like Pan's Labyrinth.
It was terrible. So those are my picks for worst films of the year. Back to you, Amanda. What do you got next? People are good. We don't want to go too negative. You want to brighten it up or something.
Well, I'm going to walk on the line here and do a best and a worst.
Okay.
Wardrobes, and hands down, best wardrobes so far. I got a top 3 and then a bottom 2.
Okay.
So my top 3, number 3 is Tale of Tales. As shitty of a movie as that was, there was some really cool stuff that they were wearing and doing with their hair, and like the look of the people was super stunning. Number 2, Warcraft. I think that everything was super spot on. Like, it looked so much like the look of the game. That's something I didn't expect to hear
when you were talking about
wardrobe. No, when I saw that, I was like, wow, this looks super true to what these characters look like in the game. Even down to, like, the shape of their feet. Like, their boots looked like the shape of the characters in the game. And my best wardrobe, and this is what's going to fucking blindside you, Eddie the Eagle. Their outfits were so spot on for the time period. It fit everything. They were comical, but they were fun outfits, and you could tell it was super of that time period, and I liked it. They got Hugh Jackman not in khaki shorts with a mullet. He was doing good.
So you heard it first from Hard Candy Mandy. Come Oscar season, best wardrobe. Look for Eddie the Eagle and Warcraft to be represented in the nomination.
We're going to flip this over now, though, and go worst. Number 2 has to be Alice Through the Looking Glass. I have no fucking clue what was going on with her outfits in this. There was just too much color, too much pattern. It was over the top and super distracting. As much as I like color and boldness, it just I don't know. It didn't make sense, yeah, but it didn't work. It doesn't have to make sense, but if it's visually appealing, and it wasn't there for me. And number 1 is Gods of Egypt. Like, what the hell? It was I just had to be able to put that on some kind of worst list.
All right. So, best and worst wardrobes. I don't know how many of those could have been predicted by anybody.
I don't have a whole lot to work with.
Dan, what are you going with next?
I'm going to go with my top 3 films that should not have worked, but somehow did and turned out okay.
Okay.
So one that's already been mentioned, number 3, Eddie the Eagle. It's a movie about downhill skiing, super, sports cliche all over the place, but I felt like it just was super self-aware, and there's just an earnestness about it that made it actually kind of enjoyable. It's not, necessarily a great film, but it's one that's, I think, it's worth watching, and it's a fun experience, and it's just like Amanda mentioned, the costumes are fantastic. The time period, I think, they hit spot on, and the performances are fun. So that turned out actually good. Number 2 is The Finest Hours. It's a January release from Disney based upon a crazy but true story. Thought it would be ridiculous and kind of, over the top, but it actually really felt like an old-time classic film from like almost Frank Capra-esque period, and Chris Pine worked really well as this like sheepish hero, and the direction of the boat sequences was quite good, and I was rather impressed with that. There were some cheesy moments. The relationship wasn't as strong, but it did feel like a type of movie we don't really see anymore, like a family film that took itself seriously and never really tried to add in unnecessary humor or lighten the tone when it didn't need to. So that actually turned out pretty solid. And number 1, films that shouldn't work but did, is The Fundamentals of Caring, which I actually just recently caught up with. It's kind of a Sundance hit, but why it shouldn't work, it's starring Paul Rudd, who I do like, but it's about someone taking care of a person in a wheelchair with multiple sclerosis, and it just has... the story itself becomes almost this road trip where every person in the van is like a rejected character from Maury Povich. Like everyone has a huge problem going on, like being pregnant, being like a lost teen. It's like a lot of the plot elements, or it's just like this unbearing amount of personal tragedy. But I just ended up finding it so endearing, and it really actually worked for me. And it was again a Netflix release that it was, I think, it did pretty well at festivals and things like that, but they picked it up, and I thought it was actually quite good, and it had a good sense of humor to it. Like the sense of humor thing really is what made it work, and the chemistry between the cast. And again, Paul Rudd, I think, had something really to chew on. There was a lot going on here, and I thought like he actually gave one of his best performances. He does do Paul Rudd, but there's a little bit more there. And I know by the end I was really, really impacted by it. So that to be
what was the name of that one again for people that might not be aware of it?
The Fundamentals of Caring, and you can now stream it on Netflix. So.
All right. Matt, what's your good and bad about your second film?
For my second film, which I'm just going to go down from, like, least favorite to most favorite, I guess.
Sounds good.
Is X-Men Apocalypse. And, the thing I could say that's positive about X-Men Apocalypse is that Apocalypse is a very complicated character, and it's a very complicated story, and I never thought we'd see a movie that does it half as well as this one did. Like, did they get everything perfect? No, but they condensed it in a way that works in not only in a movie universe, but in their movie universe, and I like that. The negative thing is that what the hell is up with the X-Men movie universe? It is all over the place. Things that don't make sense here or there. The timelines are all jangled, but I mean, hopefully they just keep releasing them until it makes sense, or stop releasing them and let it cool down. We'll see with this TV show.
Yeah, maybe they'll try to do some stuff with the TV show to rectify some of that. For my next one, I'm going to go ahead and go with, I'm calling it What a Waste. Actors or actresses that I feel like were completely either miscast, not needing to be in a film, or just completely underutilized. And I have a couple of them. I guess I have 4. My first one would be Jeffrey Rush showing up in Gods of Egypt. That was not necessary, and he's better than that. And they did... I just couldn't buy him playing the character that he was playing, and I just thought it was a complete waste. Ewan McGregor in Jane Got a Gun, I thought was wasted. Didn't have a whole lot of screen time, and I know that the casting kind of got jumbled up for that in film, and a lot of people got recast, etc., but I just didn't think he worked there, and he's a better actor than that. Kim Basinger in Nice Guys, there was absolutely... I'm not saying that she's a great actress or anything, but she was completely a waste of space in that film. And I guess the number one that I would give to, because he's appeared in more than one film, and I feel like it's been somewhat wasted, is Oscar Isaac. And the films, maybe a slightly, you could say X-Men Apocalypse, but I'm more so going into the film Mojave. I feel like his talent got wasted across the board so far this year, so hopefully he can rectify that. But as a big fan of Oscar Isaac, I guess you're kind of let down if it's not just a great performance that you see out of him, or if the film's lesser than, he can't elevate it, I guess, to a certain point. So those would be my what a waste of an actor or actress moments so far in 2016.
Back to me.
Back to you.
Moving right along here, I'm going to do best moments in movies.
Best movie moments.
So far.
So far. I'm just repeating it.
So far. I'm going to have to do 5 here.
Go for it. What's your number 5?
Number 5 is from The Boy, and to kind of get around this without saying anything about spoilers, and that's when the twist is revealed, kind of at the climax. And this is a twist that I did not see coming at all. You go through the entire movie thinking you've got it figured out, and thinking that you know what you're into, or what kind of mess, the main character is into.
And you don't.
And you don't at all. And I normally can see that kind of thing coming, especially in horror movies. With this one, I had no idea, and it worked. It was really well done, I thought.
So the twist from The Boy. What's your number 4?
Number 4 is from 10 Cloverfield Lane, and it's when John Goodman has a little run-in his facial area with something that's not so great, namely acid.
Spoiler. Yeah.
I love how you tapped around it and you just go for it completely.
It felt like I was already almost there. I was at the door. I had to kick it in.
All right.
In order for that to be powerful.
What's your number 3?
Number 3 is from X-Men Apocalypse, and that's the scene when Jean Grey releases the Phoenix. I got some goosebumps from that. That was legit. The look of it, what it did when she did release it was super awesome. Loved it. Number 2 is from Captain America Civil War, and that's when Bucky grabs the moving motorcycle, not like a mini bike, but like a full-ass fucking Harley, and whips it around and jumps onto that bitch.
That was a crazy moment.
Yeah, super cool.
I think we looked at each other in the theater when that happened, and we were like, did that just happen?
Yeah, it was an amazing moment. Number 1, hands down. Did you look at this already?
I accidentally saw the paper, and I can't.
You can't unsee that now.
Can't unsee that.
I'm laughing about it already. It's the opening scene from The Boss when she comes flying out in a flaming phoenix to sing and dance with T-Pain and some dancers. I lost my shit in the beginning of this movie.
You were almost laughing before the movie started for The Boss, which surprises nobody.
Oh my god, I haven't laughed that hard at something in a movie in a long time. I was not ready for it, and it came out, hit me hard, and I just lost my absolute love and mind.
You lost your absolute love and mind. Oh man. All right, so top 5 movie moments for Amanda. Dan, what do you have to follow that up?
Man, it's going to be hard to follow up Miss McCarthy, but I'm calling these it's on me. It's on me, the sense of these are bad movies, but really it's my fault for watching them. So,
that's my bad.
What was I expecting?
I believed you.
What was I expecting? So,
that's awesome.
Number 3 on this list is Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies.
I'm right there with you, guys.
Yeah, it's called Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. And it's neither funny, scary, or intelligent. So it just was so dull. I found it I thought the concept of the zombie idea it had was interesting, but besides that, I just was completely bored.
Really cool scene in the entire thing.
Yeah.
And that was the scene that you get in the preview with the wine glass or whatever.
Yeah. And then after that, there is 2 hours of and I will never get back.
And this is coming from Amanda, who loves anything supernatural, zombies, vampires, whatever. And when she's complaining about this film, you got to know that that's bad.
Yeah. The next one is London Has Fallen. I actually kind of enjoyed Olympus Has Fallen. I found it like a fun, schlocky film. But this London Has Fallen was just awful. It just made no sense. It was bad action, and just it was it was just plainly dumb, I guess. But what did I expect? It was called London Has Fallen. And lastly, and certainly least, is The Do-Over. Like, I have no one to blame but myself for watching it. It's an Adam Sandler film on Netflix after Ridiculous Sex, which is better than, but not by much. So, but it's my own.
And you didn't even lose a bet on that.
I know. I just chose to watch it. I don't even know why. I guess needed something in the background that I could put that I didn't have to pay enough attention to. But I ended up doing it, and it was just like, yeah. There was a lot of great 2016 films I have yet to watch, but instead I'm watching The Do-Over. So it's on me. That's my problem. It's my fault. But I'll take the blame.
Category so far. This is by far my favorite category that anyone's done. All right, Matt, what is your third film, and something good and something bad about it?
All right. My third film, it's going to be Disney from here on, Zootopia. I saw Zootopia, which I guess is the one non-superhero movie I'm going to see all year, besides Star Wars. Because somehow I can't get myself or anyone around me out to the theaters. And what I like about Zootopia is it feels really unique. I know we get some anthropomorphized animals, like, here and there, like The Secret Life of Pets. They're very human-like, but nothing quite like this, and definitely nothing like this, like, it's such a large scale that's done so well and doesn't feel awkward throughout. But that awkwardness is what my negative is, which is I've got some actual furry friends, and the amount of evangelizing this movie has done almost makes it not worth it being such a great film with such a cool world that I want to see more from. Is like, I've got a friend who doesn't look at movies at all. Like, he's not a movie guy. He'll see 3 movies a year, and they're all superhero movies. And this guy's like quoting me all the statistics. This is how much it made this week, and this movie hasn't touched Zootopia in the box office. And it's like, dude, you don't care about box office. You care about sexy bunny ladies, and you're weird. And so, like, that's my negative, is it's, like, making... I don't want to say, like, hey, furries are weird, because you do you like what you like. I just don't want you evangelizing to me. Like, don't tell me about your religion, don't tell me about what you want to have sex with. And this...
I didn't know that that's what you were talking about. I get it now.
Like, it became a real big thing on the internet when it came out, and, like, it's bled into my real life, and so, like, I guess that's my negative is...
That's a thing?
Oh, that's a big thing.
That's awful.
All right.
Again, I don't know it's not terrible, like what you like, just don't...
But, like, that's a kid's movie, and that makes it weird.
Oh, well, I mean, if you think that's weird, don't go to anything. Like, all rules...
Don't go to anything.
Like, the internet, like, they say the internet's for porn, and on the internet, nothing is sacred. Like, every Disney movie has got thousands of images that are all sexualized.
I've seen some, but, not as disturbing as little kid
We're going
animals.
down a weird path here.
Yeah.
All right, so Zootopia is your second or your third film. So you got one that's higher than that one?
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to that one in your next round then. For my next category, I'm going to go with my favorite villain roles of the year so far, and I put maybe villains in quotes because it might not always be your what you think about run-of-the-mill, I guess, villains, but I don't think there's any arguing that these guys are all villains. So I have 4 people on this one. So my first one is going to be Michael Nyqvist, who plays the creepy cult leader in the film Colonia. He's just a bad person, and the fact that this real-life human was able to get away with what he was doing for as long as he did is very sad. So if you haven't seen Colonia, you won't miss how evil of an individual he is. My number 3 pick would be Christoph Waltz, Tarzan. I just like Christoph Waltz. I don't care if he's playing the same character that I've seen in a couple different movies so far. But
he's different, though. He's a little different in this one.
But I just liked what he brought. I think that was a perfect kind of level of cheese / villainy that we got out of him. But my top 2, there's no contest for. I have John Goodman in 10 Cloverfield Lane and Patrick Stewart in The Green Room. I just think those 2 individuals brought so much to those 2 films and really made them work to the level that they did. So those are my 2 favorite villainous roles, would be Patrick Stewart and John Goodman. Amanda, you're up next.
Oh, wow. So...
It's like you're surprised every time it comes to you.
I know, I'm like, oh, it's me. I'm just used to waiting for my turn. These are 2016 movies that have been released that I still really, really, really want to see and haven't yet.
So your biggest regrets?
So far.
Okay, what are they?
Top 5. And I would say a week ago, this movie would have been on the number 1 spot. Stop looking at my list. But I have heard a bunch of bad things about it now, and I'm a little scared about it, and I'm freaked out that it's going to just wreck my life if I see this and it's awful. And that's number 5 is Independence Day. I still want to see it, but I'm worried now. I wasn't before.
Dan, she has very much every right to be worried, right?
Oh, yeah. It's... you're okay not seeing it, I guess. Yeah. I wanted
and that was one of my most anticipated.
Dan, what did you give that? Did you give that a half star or a 1.5 star?
I gave it 1 star.
1 star.
Yeah, and I honestly forgot to include it in my most disappointed, but it should have been there. Actually, probably it disappointed me more than it would be in that list, much more than X-Men Apocalypse.
Gotcha. All right, Amanda. So, what's your number 4 regret?
Number 4, we already talked about The Rock, Central Intelligence. I was not really on board for this, but then I saw another preview with some funny shit in it, and now I gotta see it. So that's probably going to be something I end up just renting, and I'm okay with it, but I still really, really want to see it. Number 3 is Ninja Turtles.
We missed it. We tried.
Yeah, we were
tried.
in the fucking theater, and they just didn't play it.
It was fate.
Yeah, it was their fault, not ours. But I still want to see it. Megan Fox aside. Number 2 is The Purge election year. I've also heard some things about that, but I've seen everything else so far, and I want to see if this closes it out, if it leaves it open, what other stuff that they explore here. And number 1 is Me Before You. This movie looked like it had a lot of heart, super cute. Not a real big fan of like the romantic kind of movies, but I think this one has a little something that I want to see. 2
films that we tried to see. We had advanced screening tickets to Me Before You, and we just did not get there soon enough, so we were not allowed to see that one. So, all right, interesting list of regrets there for you. We'll be able to knock some of those out through video here very soon. Dan, what do you got next for your next list?
I just have a couple like one-off awards that I'll do.
Sure.
So the first is Best Use of Classic Characters, and it's the movie Band of Robbers, which people may not realize is actually taking the characters of from Mark Twain, of Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. It's like a modern-day take on those characters, and that does sound awful usually, but it ends up working a lot better than I expected. And the performance by Kyle Gallner is actually quite good. I never even heard of him before. I don't think I saw him in anything else, but actually thought he gave a great performance. It was a lot of fun in that, and would recommend Band of Robbers. It came out beginning of the year, was overlooked, but is now currently streaming on Netflix, so you can see it if you're interested. My next award is just Best Use of Music, and this is an easy award for me, and that is, by music I don't mean score, I mean like actual songs and things of that nature, and that would be Sing Street. A movie I ended up really adoring, and a big reason why was the way it used music. And it's music, it takes place in the 80s, and a lot of like the 80s pop music of that day, which I'm personally not like a huge fan of. I don't dislike or like it, but I just thought it was used wonderfully and really set the tone for that film, so I ended up really enjoying it. And lastly, I just have Best Use of Animal was my best animal performance, and that's of course Keanu from Keanu. Best use of a cat in real life, the best. So I thought it was a bunch of that film. I thought that Keanu was okay. I do like Key and Peele a lot, but it wasn't. I was somewhat disappointed by it. It was disappointed, but still good. But I thought the Keanu itself was quite, even for a non-cat person, was a cute cat that had some great moments, and especially the beginning of the film, which had a great opening. So that's my last award. Best animal performance, I guess.
I like it. Matt, what is your top film so far this year, and what's something good and something bad about it?
Captain America 3. I mean, it's the only one, right?
Well, not if there's 3 of them.
Wow, it's the only one that everyone knows that I've seen, because I think everyone knew what I had seen except for maybe Zootopia.
So what was the best moment about Captain America?
The thing about Captain America Civil War is that it retells what might be one of the greatest comic book crossover events ever. Like, and then, you know, and that might be my bias because Civil War came out when I was at the height of my comic book fandom. But I've read a lot of old stuff and some of the new stuff, and, like, I just loved Civil War. Like, it literally divided my friends. We were arguing different points and different things. It was a great story. And this, while not really doing the events of Civil War, got a lot of the concepts, but had to reduce the scope because there aren't a billion Marvel characters for them to play with, and they don't have time to introduce that many. Which is actually what the negative is that because of the significantly reduced scope, it's not really faithful to the story, just the concepts of the story, and that makes it significantly less impactful. Like, whereas with the original Civil War, my friends and I were taking sides hard, and after the movie, we were like, I don't know that I want to take a side. Like, they're both wrong for their own reasons, rather than they're both right for their own reasons.
I have a couple one-offs just like Dan. I'm going to go with my biggest box office surprise, and the biggest box office surprise for me this year so far has been the Angry Birds film, as we kind of talked about when we did our predictions. I was not prepared for how well that did at the box office. For best marketed...
Sorry to cut up. I call shenanigans because I still get to see one person that has actually seen that movie. I think something's going on. Someone's cooking the books someplace. Yeah.
You just don't know where yet. We haven't. That news story hasn't broke. So for best marketed film, I'm going to give that to Deadpool. I just think that everything that went into the marketing of that film, whether it was interviews, whether it was vignettes or different things like that, I thought it was excellently done. And along the same lines, I'll also give Deadpool the best opening credits sequence so far of the year. And I think my only other one-off here that I had was worst casting. I didn't say that yet, did I? Worst casting I would give to Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I just don't think it worked at all. And I think that was bad direction of the character, bad casting, and just there was nothing good about that whole performance for me. So those would be my one-offs, which means if Amanda, did you have any other ones that you wanted to give out before we do our top films of the year so far?
No, sir.
All right, why don't you lead us off then? What are your top films of the year so far?
Oh, Lord. Top 5?
Yeah.
My number 5 is The Boy, for reasons we already discussed. Number 4, Batman vs. Superman.
Ooh.
And
that's not really in your top 5.
Top 5 worst movies? That's still too
5.
low.
Top 5. Number 3 is The Boss. Number 2 is one of our most recent watches, Tarzan. Number 1 is 10 Cloverfield Lane. I think that was the one movie this year that I walked out and I was like, whoa, that was not what I was expecting. That exceeded my expectations. I didn't really have a lot of expectations going into it, but coming out of it, I was like, wow, there was so much to try to take apart and figure out, and it kept you guessing, and it kept, the suspense up. It didn't have any points where I was bored. I wasn't looking at, my clock. The end, a little wonky for me, but it worked.
So Batman vs. Superman, I just want to go back to that for a second, to make people drink more if they're playing that game. But you put that ahead of Civil War, X-Men Apocalypse, and Deadpool?
Yeah, Deadpool kind of fell a little short for me. I think it was fun, but it wasn't anything that I was blown away by. I mean, it was cool. Yeah, it was good. But even after all that marketing, I felt like I had seen Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool so much that it wasn't as a novel of a thing when I did actually get to see him. So that was a little bit of a drawback of so much marketing. It wasn't as special then.
And what made Batman vs. Superman better than Civil War?
I had Civil War number 6, and I think Civil War, there wasn't as much that was as memorable for me, and things that I was like going to commit to memory to look back and pick apart and think about. I didn't think about Civil War as much as I did about Batman vs. Superman, and Batman vs. Superman opened it up to make me want to see more of that universe. It got me super stoked for all these other spin-off movies that are coming out, and it did get me hyped up for some more DC action, whereas Civil War, I kind of seen a lot of that already, so I wasn't as hyped up about it.
Do you know why you thought more about Batman vs. Superman? No, that's not a question. It's because you were trying to figure out why anything made sense that's going on in that film. I'm just kidding.
I'm going to stab you with this bubblegum color pencil.
All right. So that was The Boy, Batman vs. Superman, The Boss, Tarzan, and 10 Cloverfield Lane. Dan, what's your top films of the year so far?
Well, kind of going off that, my number 5 is Captain America Civil War. I did find it very memorable. I guess, yeah, it is somewhat more of the same, but it's the same I like and enjoyed up to this point. I thought the additions of Tom Holland as Spider-Man, Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther worked well. The Russo brothers' direction of action was great. I also thought it had one of the most satisfying endings of any Marvel film up to this point, and so I lot to like about that one. Number 4 for me is Everybody Wants Some. I ate this movie up. I thought, I kind of say it's like the grown-up Sandlot. It's a movie that has great atmosphere and enjoyable characters and a lot to enjoy. Number 3 was Green Room. I just thought I love Blue Ruin. I had a lot of expectations for this, and it sold me. It was tense. It was a great use of violence when it was necessary. As you mentioned, Patrick Stewart was phenomenal. If anything, I wish we just got more of him. Sound design on this, I think, was key into really making it work. I just love how the director he has a solid understanding of thrillers and how he subverts expectations every so often. And it may not be the most deep film in the world, but I think it's a really just well-made genre film. Number 2 for me is actually Hail Caesar. I know it got somewhat of a mixed reaction, but I'm a huge fan of classic Hollywood, that time period, and I enjoy the Coens, so it was like a perfect marriage for me. I loved what they were doing. I loved the commentary about that time, a lot of the references. I loved how it was very much a movie of that time, and the style that they used, and the fact that they even had entire dance sequences, or it felt like a movie that just really don't make anymore. And I enjoyed it. I thought the performances overall were fantastic, except for maybe George Clooney, who was a little maybe miscast. But overall, I thought it was a really solid film. That, again, I think it's a movie that, like a lot of Coen Brothers films, they tend to get appreciated more as years go on. I could see that happening with Hail Caesar. But number 1 for me was actually quite easy choice. I don't think I've seen a film on this level since saw her a few years ago, and it's The Lobster, starring Colin Farrell, the movie about this kind of alternate universe where if you don't get married, you get turned into some sort of animal of your choice. It's a crazy concept that ends up working, filled with a lot of creativity, and yes, there's a commentary on marriage, but I think what really works is that it goes beyond that and really talks about how we create these subcultures with these hierarchy of rules that we have to follow, and how we end up kind of making the enemy, the people outside of those communities, the enemy for unnecessary reasons. I thought the sense of humor was on point. It was super dry, uber dry, a tone that is really hard to achieve, but somehow they kind of kept it consistent throughout. So there's a lot to chew on. I thought it was funny. The performances were all great, and just again, it hit me nearly on every level. And I would, if it's another movie tops it for this year, I think that would be surprising for me. So overall, though, I think my top 4 are pretty solid in the sense of where they're placed. But my 5 through 6, my 4 through 6, 7 or so, I kept replacing. I have Zootopia, Sing Street, and The Witch, all within that period, and those could all kind of interchange. But my top 3 of The Lobster, Hail Caesar, and Green Room, I think are really happy with so far. So
I'm kind of in a similar spot where I have a lot that I'm kind of waffling back and forth on. My number 1 is for sure right now, and then I think the rest of my top 5 could interchange a lot, and then the 6 through 12 could really kind of switch around. I have stuff like you mentioned, Hail Caesar is just outside my top 10, but you guys both mentioned, or a couple people mentioned Zootopia. Swiss Army Man's in my right around the top 10 mark, and then an early film that kind of surprised me, Eye in the Sky. So yeah, a lot of those could kind of interchange, but as for my top 5, I'll go with one film that hasn't been mentioned by anybody, but that's probably because most people just railed on this film and hated it. But I don't know, maybe I'm just a sucker for this type of film, or maybe I'm just a big Matthew McConaughey fan, because Free State of Jones did work for me, and it's coming in right now at my number 5 spot. So
maybe I just refused to be disappointed because it was something I was anticipating so much. But I love the Civil War. I love stories about different individuals and characters that existed in that time period, whether it be just regular citizens or soldiers or generals. There's a lot of interesting stuff there, and I don't. A lot of people like to hate on Matthew McConaughey, but I thought he did a phenomenal job in that film, so I thought it was one of the bright spots. So, Free State of Jones is my number 5. Or my first one, like I said, 2 through 5 are really kind of interchangeable. I also have 10 Cloverfield Lane in there, like you did, Amanda. I really enjoyed that film a lot more than I thought I was going to. I went in with absolutely zero expectations, and I love John Goodman, and I thought he was phenomenal in that, so that's in my top 5. And then 2 films that you mentioned, Dan, I have Everybody Wants Some in my top 5, and I don't think it's a film for everybody for sure. I question whether it would resonate with a female audience big time, but as for myself, it's a time period I grew up in, so a lot of the aspects that you get kind of recreated are kind of fun little nostalgic things for me. And also I've spent probably 20 different seasons on different teams, coaching, playing, doing different stuff. So a lot of that, a lot of the aspects that are going on work for me, and I've attended college, so I mean it spoke to me in a lot of different ways, and I just thought it was a lot of fun, like you said. And I get the comparisons to Dazed and Confused, but although a different level and a different type of thing it's going for. But I really liked Everybody Wants Some, and the other one you mentioned, Dan, Green Room, really worked for me. I kind of keep waffling back and forth between, especially like Green Room and 10 Cloverfield Lane, about which one I like better. I could have used some more Patrick Stewart as well, but Green Room just worked overall for me much more than I anticipated. And my number 1 film, which I guess it's going to be one of those ones, I guess it goes down similar to like The Book Thief I had from previous year, or like The Count of Monte Cristo. Is just one of those films that I'm the only one champion for, and I don't know if maybe it just I don't know why I liked it as much as I did, and maybe some people would think it's or would classify it as a 2015 film, but it had no U.S. release in 2015, so I'm qualifying it as a 2016 film, and that is the film titled Remember, with Christopher Plummer and Martin Landau. I was excited for this film somewhat, but really didn't have much as far as expectation goes. I think the acting is absolutely phenomenal. I think both individuals, Plummer and Landau, are like at the top of their game with their performance here. I think the writing's good. I think the direction's good. I think there's some twists and stuff along the way, and it was just interesting to see how they were going to do this. And for those of you that don't know what the heck I'm talking about, Christopher Plummer is an elderly gentleman who is suffering from memory loss, and he basically makes a pact with Martin Landau to eventually try to seek out and find the Nazi in charge of the prison camp that they were at, and they want to basically exact revenge and murder him. And it's following Christopher Plummer, but every time he nods off, he forgets his life. He forgets where he's at. He forgets that it's not a spoiler because it happens right away, or talked about right away, but he forgets that his wife's dead, so he has to relive that every time he wakes up or opens his eyes. He has to find different ways to remind himself what's going on and stuff like that. And Martin Landau is kind of the guy at the old folks home that is kind of trying to help guide him along this path. So it's just interesting how they go about doing things, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I'm the only one, but I will give Remember my number 1 spot.
Why do you think you're the only one? Just because nobody else?
I have not heard a single person even mention this film in 2016 yet.
I liked it.
So it's not in your top 5.
No, but I liked it. I enjoyed it.
So if anybody out there is looking for something to see, watch Remember, and then tweet me or message me on Facebook or something and let me know if you liked it or not, because I'm interested to see what other people say about that film.
It is currently streaming on Amazon Prime, which is interesting because I saw it like as a movie recommended for me, and like the poster looks like nothing like what you would describe, because it's like with him with a gun. So I thought it was like a Taken, like him as like a Taken type of thriller, but I guess that's not the case.
It's basically two people that are, one of them's not capable. Like Martin Landau plays a person that's not capable of leaving the old folks home. Like he's so whatever it is, whether it's disabled or something, like he can't leave. So Christopher Plummer is basically the legs, but he doesn't have the memory. So Martin Landau has to kind of organize and do all that kind of stuff. And I just think it's too
phenomenal, iconic actors that it's just fun to watch them do what they do, and it's a somewhat interesting story along the way. So I would recommend at least giving it a shot. I'm not saying it's going to make anybody else's top 10, but I think certain people would find some enjoyment from it. All right. As far as stuff that's coming out here in the next week or weekend, obviously this week at the box office we have Ghostbusters, and then maybe some people might be getting in limited release Cafe Society, or at least a video on demand possible release. And as far as Blu-rays coming out next Tuesday, not a lot, but we do have Elvis and Nixon coming out, Miles Ahead, also a 2016 film, and Matt, the Ultimate Edition Combo Pack, Batman vs. Superman.
That's the full length 10 extra minutes of nothing?
I don't know if that's what it is or not, but it's the Ultimate Edition Combo Pack. I assume that. If you can't get enough of Superman from that, there's also a 4K Ultra HD release of Man of Steel. So you can go back to that one and watch that one if you want to.
You can see all the grit in high def.
Also an Ultimate Cut 4K Ultra HD release of Watchmen. And then there's
What the hell is 4K Ultra HD?
You thought you liked 1080p. This is more.
And then there's also some Criterion collections, Night and Fog, Muriel, or The Time of Return, and A Touch of Zen. And for those horror fan films out there, there is a Return of the Living Dead Collector's Edition coming out. So maybe something for you. Dan, anything of interest coming out to the theater or on DVD, or are you just going to forego all of it?
I'm just waiting for Jason Bourne to come out, basically. So,
you're saving your money
yeah,
for Jason
that's what
Bourne.
I'm doing. So.
All right, Amanda?
I'm going to go bust some ghosts.
Amanda's ghost busting. Matt, you're going to get your hands on Batman vs. Superman?
I really want to see Ghostbusters, but I don't think I'll see it.
You can make it happen.
I'm gonna start talking to everyone. See if I can.
All right.
You already are talking to everyone.
Yay!
What?
I'm going to give Ghostbusters a shot, I guess, too, only because in our recent theater trip when we tried to watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we instead were forced into a viewing of, not really forced, but we were told we could not see Turtles, and we had to go see the 1984 Ghostbusters film, and then we are about to watch Ghostbusters 2, I think, probably in the next day or two. So we gotta just get all our Ghostbusters on this week and then be done with it, see if it's living up to the early reviews, or if everybody that was in a panic all year was in a panic for a reason, I guess.
Get your panties out of a bunch.
Haters.
The movie's going to be good.
Haters
don't hate.
All right.
And ainers don't hate.
And the question for you guys that we want to get your feedback on, please tweet us your answer or comment on the website post. But we want to know, what is your favorite film of 2016 so far? Pretty simple there. What's your top film for 2016 up to this point? And if you agree or disagree with any of our picks or awards, let us know, and we'd love to interact with you and get feedback on that. The website is thegcrn.com. The Twitter for the show is at Cinema Cast, and if you want to interact with each one of us individually or ask us a question or anything like that, we would love that, and you can do that by tweeting Amanda at
Hard Candy Mandy, Eyes, No Lies.
How can people interact with you, Matt?
At Fridley Scent.
Dan?
I'm at Movie Revolts.
And I am at Optimus Solo. Dan, what's coming up next week on Talking in Circles?
Well, we will actually be playing a new game called Fake or Real. Now, it's not what you think. Basically, we'll be scour the internet for upcoming movies, TV shows, comic books, and made some up myself, and the guys have to determine, is it real or is it fake, and you'd be surprised what actually is being made. Probably not too surprised.
No, we wouldn't be.
Yeah.
All right, so an interesting game coming up on Talking to Circles. Be sure to check them out when the episode posts, probably usually on Tuesday, right, Dan?
It's been Wednesdays lately, honestly.
Okay, Wednesdays. Look for it Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere in there. You'll see that, and you'll be able to download that and listen. So thanks, as always, for tuning in to the Cinema Geeks this week, and be sure to check us out next week for another chance to listen to the Cinema Geeks.